Hello and welcome to French Philosophers React, a philosophical take on the news headlines for today, September 10th, 2024. This is an AI-generated podcast and can make mistakes. Use it for generating possible ideas, but don't rely on it as an authoritative guide to the news or to the details of French philosophy. In the news today, story. The Albanese government plans to introduce legislation to Parliament before the next election, imposing a minimum age limit for teenagers accessing social media and gaming platforms. The Prime Minister will announce the move on Tuesday, but won't specify the age, pending the conclusion of an age verification trial. A report by former High Court Chief Justice Robert French recommends setting the age at 14 and requiring parental consent for children aged 14 or 15 to use social media platforms. Other states, including South Australia and Victoria, have also expressed support for similar measures. So what might French philosophers have to say about this news item? In The Society of the Spectacle, Debord argues that modern society is characterized by the proliferation of images and representations that mediate our relationships with each other and with reality. In this sense, social media can be seen as a paradigmatic example of what Debord calls the spectacle, a realm where appearances and simulations dominate over authentic human experience. The story about the Albanese government's plan to introduce age limits for teenagers accessing social media and gaming platforms can be understood through this lens. At its core, the proposal represents an attempt to regulate the boundaries between the virtual world of the spectacle and the real world of embodied experience. By setting a minimum age limit, the government aims to shield young people from the potential dangers of the online realm, where they may be exposed to cyberbullying, harassment, or exploitation. However, this move also raises questions about the nature of freedom and control in the digital age. As Debord would argue, the spectacle is characterized by a dialectical relationship between the forces of liberation and those of domination. On one hand, social media platforms promise users unparalleled opportunities for self-expression, connection, and community building. On the other hand, these same platforms are also designed to capture and commodify user data, subjecting individuals to new forms of surveillance and control. In this context, the proposed age limit can be seen as a manifestation of the latter tendency, an attempt by the state to exert greater control over the online activities of its citizens. By setting a minimum age limit, the government is effectively determining what types of online experiences are suitable for young people and which ones are not. This move reflects a broader trend towards increased regulation of the digital sphere, where states and corporations seek to impose their will on users through various means. However, as Debord's work suggests, this type of control is always incomplete and subject to subversion. The spectacle is characterized by its ability to absorb and neutralize attempts at resistance or critique. In the context of social media, this means that any regulatory measures are likely to be circumvented or co-opted by the very platforms they aim to regulate. Furthermore, Debord's concept of détournement, the practice of reusing and reinterpreting existing cultural materials in new and subversive ways, offers a useful framework for thinking about how young people might respond to these regulations. Rather than simply accepting or rejecting the age limit, users may find ways to creatively manipulate and subvert it, using social media platforms in ways that are not anticipated by their designers. In comments on the Society of the Spectacle, Debord notes that the spectacle is characterized by its ability to produce a sense of pseudo-cyclical time, an experience of time as repetitive, homogeneous, and devoid of genuine historical or cultural significance. In this context, the proposal for age limits can be seen as an attempt to impose a more linear and progressive understanding of time on young people's online experiences. However, as Debord argues, this type of temporality is inherently at odds with the lived experience of individuals, who always find ways to disrupt and subvert the dominant narratives of the spectacle. By setting age limits, the government is effectively trying to regulate the pace and tempo of young people's online lives, dictating what types of experiences are suitable for different stages of development. Ultimately, the story about age limits for social media reflects a deeper tension between the forces of control and liberation in the digital age. As Debord's work suggests, any attempt to regulate or dominate the online sphere is always subject to subversion and resistance. By recognizing this dynamic, we can begin to think more critically about the implications of these proposals and how they might shape the future of our online experiences. Thank you for listening to today's episode of French Philosophers React. Be sure to come back tomorrow for more reflective takes on the day's news.